All right, let's dive into a classic case of, well, unintended consequences. We're talking about a public policy called Make America Healthy Again, or MAHA for short. Now, it was launched with a super clear mission, but what actually happened? Well, that tells a story that's not just surprising, it's deeply ironic.
And honestly, that's putting it mildly. This quote, right from the source material, just nails it. It gets right to the heart of what we're about to unpack. A policy that was designed to do one thing, but ended up doing pretty much the opposite.
And that's really the big question here, isn't it? When a policy completely misses its target, there are real-world consequences. You get winners and losers, and they're often not the ones you'd expect at all. So let's follow the bizarre journey of this policy and see where it all went wrong.
So every policy starts with a goal, right? But the road from that intention to what happens in the real world, well, it can take some seriously unexpected turns.
This is the core paradox. I mean, imagine you're trying to land a punch on your biggest rival, only to find out that your swing somehow made them even stronger. That is exactly what happened here. An effort to humble this massive industry giant somehow ended up just reinforcing its power. Wild.
Okay, so what was this policy supposed to do in the first place? The ambition was huge, to take on one of the most powerful sectors in all of healthcare. But how?
On paper, the objectives looked pretty straightforward. The whole plan was to shake up the status quo. It was basically a two-pronged attack. First, they slapped a new excess profits tax directly onto Big Pharma. And second, they made these drastic cuts to how much insurers and hospitals got reimbursed for the most expensive products. The thinking was, this would squeeze them from both ends, force them to lower prices, and just generally curb their power. That was the expectation. Now, let's look at the reality.
So MAHA sets its sights on this one group, but in doing so, it accidentally created a boom for others. And yeah, ironically, that included the very group it was trying to target.
Okay, this chart right here is the key to understanding this whole story. It lays out all the ripple effects of the policy across the healthcare industry. Just for a second, forget the stated goals. The data here shows who actually came out on top.
So, the biggest winners? Diagnostics and labs, with a 12% positive bump. They weren't even really part of the initial conversation, but all these policy shifts created new complexities and new demands that, well, they were perfectly positioned to meet.
And here it is, the central irony of the whole thing. Big Pharma, the primary target, didn't just survive the hit, it thrived, with a 5% positive impact. The policy that was meant to humble them just proved how incredibly resilient they were, finding ways to adapt and completely offset the new pressures. The punch totally missed.
And you know how it goes. For every winner, there's a loser. While some sectors were doing great, others got hit hard. They basically became the casualties of this policy. Now, the policy wasn't totally toothless. It did manage to hobble some players. Hospitals and insurers took a pretty big 10% hit from those reimbursement cuts. The catch? This wasn't the main goal they advertised.
And this is probably the most unfortunate outcome of all. The small-cap biotech firms, the innovators, they suffered the most with a 15% negative impact. They weren't the target, they were just collateral damage, caught in the crossfire of this whole thing.
So let's just lay it all out, nice and clear. On one side, in the winner's circle, we have the very big pharma companies that were being targeted, and the diagnostics labs that kind of lucked out from the fallout. And then on the other side, the losers, the hospitals and insurers, along with all those innovative small biotech firms that got hurt in the process.
So we've seen the scorecard, we know who won and who lost, but what was the final, net effect of a policy that missed its main target so spectacularly?
And this is the real kicker, the crucial bottom line that the source material makes crystal clear. By strengthening these corporate giants while hobbling providers and innovators, the result wasn't a healthier America. It was a more fragile public health system.
So what are the big takeaways here? First, just a massive gap between what a policy says it's going to do and what actually happens. Second, the incredible resilience of corporate power. And finally, the ultimate outcome, a weaker public health system, where the real costs just get passed down to communities. Which leaves us with this final, really critical question to think about. This whole explainer shows a major disconnect between intent and outcome. It's just a powerful reminder that in the super complex world of public policy, the most important question is always this: who ultimately benefits and who ends up paying the price?